being able to sort of tell my story in a way that feels like me. Except
There's
it's
no
like
shame. Every designer has been in that beginner stage, so
you
they
know,
understand.
if anyone's listening to this, if you're just starting out with design, even if you're not just starting out, just share your work really. It
It
is,
is actually fun. Yes, I find it so interesting.
and sometimes that comes with a lot of experience. You've seen the worst of
Mm.
the worst, so you know how to deal with them, right?
Hi, hi, hi. Welcome to another episode of The Spotlight. This podcast is for curious minds and aspiring innovators who are leading the charge in the research revolution. We dive deep to discuss inspiring, informative, and offbeat conversations on product research and strategy. My name is Iwalola Shobawale, and I am a product research and strategy lead at a leading technology company in Nigeria. So, welcome to another exciting episode. We will dip our toes into the world of product design and explore the challenges and triumphs of these creative minds. So, everyone is preaching the gospel of tech, right? Every day we see so many posts encouraging people to get into tech or transition to tech, but we hardly hear about the challenges that people are likely to be faced with in tech. That is what I'm aiming to do with this series that will be called The Struggles. I'll be bringing you people in various roles and industries to talk about the struggles that they face in their roles. We are going to be as real and relatable as possible. Now, this is not to be a bearer of bad news or to be some kind of gatekeeper for these industries or roles, right? The goal of this series is to get you as much insight as possible into these fabled tech roles and to enable you make an informed decision before you take the plunge. Is anyone else doing this for you? I don't think so. So today we have a very special guest joining us, Dipo, a talented SaaS and B2B product designer in Nigeria. So he'll be sharing with us how he navigates the unique obstacles in UX design and how he has managed to, leave a mark with his creations. In this episode, we'll uncover the struggles, the triumphs, and the ever evolving role of a product designer. So get ready, get ready to be inspired as we delve into Dupo's journey and gain insight into, the intersection of product research, strategy, and design. So, a little interesting background story on how we know each other. Dipo and I completed a beginner UX design course together with Utiva. Shout out to Utiva, by the way. So, for me, it was a beginner course. I think Dipo had some more experience at that time already. He had some experience in UX design, but for me, it was a beginner course, and it was a great experience for me as a beginner. But one funny thing I remember, and I know that Dipo remembers this too, is we were working on a project together and we all had access to a Figma file. For me, this was my first time using Figma, right? I didn't really understand how it worked, and how working collaboratively, like the how you behave when you're working collaboratively. So I know that Dipo had worked on the design for the team, and the next thing, me, I carried my two left legs, opened the Figma file, and started making some edits. God, now thinking about it, of course, I'm cringing, but all these kind of struggles, all these kind of things, that's what I want people to tell us about. For me, it was a very memorable experience, right?
Yeah,
And I know, Dipo, you have a lot more interesting stories that you'll be sharing with us today, right?
yeah,
I hope
yeah.
so. Please remember all those interesting stories. You're going to break them down for us.
I
Uh,
I remember something similar happening to me as well. So like I was working
okay.
on a strict feature for like a language app, and then I broke something with the design system. So I mean, obviously, this means I'm not too familiar with design systems, right? So I don't even know
Hmm.
what I did. I think it was the fonts. I was working with a particular like typeface, and then I don't know what happened. Everything just changed. All the fonts name, all the
Away.
and then the lead designer just messaged me. I was like, yo, what are you doing? What did you do? I was like, I
God.
don't know. Sorry, oh." No best.
I hope he was able to fix it.
he was,
Oh,
but he was really
okay.
pissed because he was like,
I
he
can
has to do
imagine.
it one by one. I was like, he was like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Yo,
Oh God. And you would have been feeling so guilty.
I felt
But we
really,
live and we learn, right?
yeah, we do, we do.
Yeah. So welcome, Dipo. Let's get into today's episode. So okay, I know I already introduced you a bit, but I'd like for you to introduce yourself. What's your name? What do you do?
Right. So I'm Dipo Apelehin. I'm a product designer. I started designing about I think it's been 2 years now. But like
Yeah.
I don't want to admit it's 2 years because I think we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's just this, you look everywhere online and you see, oh, I've been in product design for like 2 years, and I've worked with
Mm-hmm.
Google, I've worked with Apple, I've worked with Amazon, I've worked with
You will not be
Jesus.
wondering that, please, am I a
Yeah,
potato? Or-
what have I been doing with all my life?
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think I think it's something I should be proud of anyways.
Yes,
I've
you
been
should. Your progress in 2 years. Hmm.
Yeah, I've been designing for 2 years now. Probably the most inconsistent product designer out there because I have like ups and downs. I'm sure we've all
Okay.
had it, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing we never really speak about, especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
self-taught. You have
Mm-hmm.
moments where you say, "Oh, I'm going to focus all of my life on this." You put everything
Mm.
into, and 3 months later you kind of slack, and life
Yeah, it
hits you in
happens sometimes.
the
Yeah.
head, and you're like, okay, you know what, this isn't really working that way, so let me focus on
Mm-hmm.
something else.
Yeah.
Then so I've had a lot of those moments, but
Okay.
coming to yeah, one thing I said was, I want to focus on this full time and like, really make
Mm-hmm.
something out of this. So yeah, I
Yeah.
go into B2B SaaS this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's tough because it's
Ah.
like it's a whole new industry, and it's very
Mm.
it's very serious, and I'm
Yeah.
a very serious person. So it's trying trying to fit myself into that has been very challenging, but
Okay.
I'm learning every day, I suppose, and yeah, looking forward to how this year turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I like that you said was how, you actually had to tell yourself that you take it seriously this year.
Yeah,
And I think that is very important. Like the fact that you highlighted, you noticed that okay, this you basically made it a goal, right? So I
yeah,
definitely think by the end of this year, you probably look back and be proud of where you started and where you are, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
can
yeah,
you tell a little bit about your journey? I know you've touched on it a bit. How did you
yeah.
become passionate about product design?
Passion. Oof. What was it?
Okay,
There was a
maybe not
tweet I
passionate.
saw.
How did you get
There
into it?
was a tweet I saw that said something about that. Like all I saw was money, yo. But yeah,
My dear.
then I was in my finals. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And tech was taking during the not this year
Mm-hmm.
that they're laying off everybody.
Yeah.
And
My dear.
there were free classes for to learn tech, Google Developers Club Unilag. So I joined. They taught me machine learning. They taught
Oh,
me,
interesting.
yeah, front end, and I was doing a bit of front end before then, so I was
Okay.
familiar with it, and then there was now something I had never heard before. That was actually the first time I heard of UI UX, right? It
Hmm.
was yeah, and they told us to recreate Piggyvest. Yeah, it was a Piggyvest website.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had to recreate that. I remember his name was
Okay.
William. So
Oh,
he gave us the
nice.
we create the Piggyvest website, and that was it. And it was fun. It seemed like something new. I spent the whole day doing that. It was,
Okay.
you're like putting things together. It was the first time I could actually see something I was working on in real time. Just
Hmm.
give me feedback like that. Because code
Yeah.
was frustrating. It wasn't really working.
Yes.
It
Yeah. So
wasn't really working.
unlike I think that's one thing that also drew me to design. Like you can actually
Right.
see everything you're doing in real time. It's just
Yeah.
happening in front of you. You're seeing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I love that.
when you're sort of
Mm-hmm.
not up to it, you have
Mm-hmm.
this idea in your head, but like there's a gap between you and the idea. It's just you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was something very alluring about it. And then so I started then, I think, yeah, I think about 2 years ago or so. Then from there, I got a little serious. I got onto YouTube, lots of YouTube videos.
Mm.
Then, finals came, so I kind of left it for a bit. Then I left it for a bit longer. Then I did COVID happened. I think YouTuber was doing COVID, right? Was it doing COVID?
Yes. Yes, I was doing COVID. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
It was
So
during COVID.
then I did YouTuber, and that was it really. From YouTuber,
Yeah.
yeah, I got one or two opportunities, and yeah, so it's been a very
Awesome.
interesting journey since then.
Yeah. So have you ever gone back to look at your first design?
Yeah, I have. I remember one time
What was your reaction?
I was like, God, what is it? It looks like watercolor. So like the first
Jesus.
thing I did after YouTube, I was trying to work on like this transport app, management app, and then
Okay.
there was just lots of shadows everywhere. I mean, if you're familiar with
Mm.
it, was yeah, it was like you were like shading something on a piece of
Mm.
paper. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. It wasn't great.
Oh God. But yes, so you can see the progress you've made at least in the past few years,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Progress
I
is
love that.
progress.
Yeah. I love that. So what do you love about your current role? You mentioned
Uh,
that you've been in B2B SaaS for a few months now.
right, right. I've been transitioning into it.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a full time role as a
Okay.
B2B SaaS designer yet.
Okay.
But currently I work as a designer at I don't know if I should mention their name. But currently I work as a designer basically, and um the one thing I do like about it is it's sort of the freedom. So it's remote
Okay.
and
Mm.
it's very, I don't know how to put it. There's just a lot of time for you to like work on other things because
Okay.
I've always been eyeing software engineering, right?
Okay.
And I joined ALX again for the third time this year.
Third time.
Third time. I was like, you know what, this is the third time. If it doesn't work out this time, I just know it's not for me. And I'll probably join again like for the fourth time. But I joined again, Sha, and it's been very exciting. I would say this has been the most I've given into anything. It was even more than I gave into design. I'm
Oh
a lot
wow.
more open. Yeah, I'm a lot more open about it. I have been able to
Okay.
like create a community. I have friends that we talk every day, and I am actually reading books on software engineering.
I love that. I love that. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about any of the books you're reading? You can just mention.
Um, so I'm reading this. So the books I'm reading are like basic introductory books, right? So like we're supposed to be
Okay.
learning about C programming. So I'm reading this book, Introduction to C by Brian. I really cannot pronounce his last name. I don't want to bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Brian Cannon, something like that. So yeah, it's a very
Okay.
popular C book, and it's it gives me a headache most times I open it, but it's fun.
Mm. Okay.
It makes me feel like I'm taking the right steps. But yeah, aside that, really, so that's one thing I love about the job. It's very, very, it allows you to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Mm.
And yeah, it's one of the things just taking that time out to kind of like work on my portfolio, set myself up for something really sweet in B2B SaaS. And I can stand in front of laptop and just be pressing it. Like hackers in the movies, and they're like, oh,
You know,
they're breaking
you're
things,
living
breaking
the
and
dream, oh.
just and removing package, but it doesn't matter. Like yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure in the next 1 year, you look back and be like, wow, you've really achieved so much. The
right,
third
I
time is
would.
the charm, oh. So I
Yeah,
hope we'll actually
I'm
finish
going
up
to
the
wait
ALX
for
this year.
it to. I
Mhm.
hope so. I said that the
I
second time.
believe in you. I believe in you.
Thank you so much. But yeah, aside
Yeah.
that, really, aside the freedom as well, there's also the. So recently I had this kind of like project. It's not even kind of like it was a project. It was for
Okay.
a SaaS product, also B2B, because yeah, it was, and it was very exciting from the start, And then when I got into it, I think I underestimated just how complex it would be.
Mm.
And when once I got into it, I realized that okay, I think I might be swimming into deep.
So you just jumped into the deep end straight away.
I yeah, it was really deep. But I was lucky enough to have sort of like another designer who was on the project with me and who
Okay.
was a bit more experienced. And he was a bit more experienced, but it, it still felt like we were both, using ropes to like cross the bridge. So it was a bit shaky.
Yeah, I can
the,
imagine.
the leg no stand well, but yeah,
You
yeah.
get.
Yeah, that was I think that's one thing that excites me about like going into B2B SaaS. There's a there's a there's a strangeness to it. You have to like
Okay.
get used to the terminology, you have to get used to the way they
Mm.
think. And then business thinking is very important in this place because the major
Okay.
focus is to make money basically and to make a product that people would enjoy. So yeah,
Mm.
it's very fun.
Yeah, so speaking about that, right? You mentioned, the business thinking is so important. How do you now balance, the need for you to be creative and express yourself, with those like practical elements of, you're trying to make money for the business. So I
Right,
imagine there are situations where like maybe one of your business users will say, oh, they need this feature. And how do you balance that? Like you're trying
right,
to be
right,
creative, but then they are asking for something that you know that this might not just work, right? I'd love to know how you
right.
deal with that.
Right. Honestly, I do it the way every other designer does it. If they say I don't want it, I
Okay.
just remove it.
You just
I just remove it because
oh
some battles are just not worth fighting. To be
god.
honest, some you
Hmm.
fight, you stamp your feet, whatever it is that
Hmm.
you do. You try and convince them to add it, not to add
Hmm.
it. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, if they're really not going to like buy into it, they
Hmm.
really won't. And yeah,
Yeah.
so how do I do that? Honestly, if this thing is too much, I don't know how to put it. If the obstacle is too high,
My
I'll
dear.
just drop,
Hmm.
and then over time I'll just be small, just be wearing you down. And then if
Hmm.
that, which they most likely would over time, because you'd have
Yeah.
been able to build some form of trust, some form of what's the English? I think it's still trust, right? Where they believe in
Yeah.
you or they
Trust. Yeah.
are doing things right. Yeah. So you'll be able to build that, and they know that you are doing the best thing for them,
Hmm.
basically. So yeah.
Hmm. I
About
love that actually. I love
yeah,
that. I
and
think
I'm
trust is
not
so
the most
important.
creative designer. I'm not the most creative designer, to be honest. I know there are lots of designers who are like creative. They make
Hmm.
designs that are like ooh, mind blowing. My
Their
designers are
interactions will just be like, wow.
yeah, you'd be like wow. But like I'm not the most creative designer.
Hmm.
My designs are mostly very functional, right? It
Yeah, so that
gets the
means B2B is perfect for you then.
exactly, and it's like
Software as a service.
now I look at the heavens and I say, wow, am I going to be another John Doe in B2B?
Mm.
Because everybody wants to stand out. But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see how
yeah,
that goes anyway.
yeah. I love that. So I think we already touched a little bit on this, right? But like, can you give us like some of the most common struggles, like those challenges that you face in your day-to-day work? So you've already mentioned how sometimes you don't. There's no point fighting some battles, right? So that I guess that's
Right.
one. But like, I'm very sure there are some interesting stories
Yeah.
there. You can
Oh
just give
my
us
God.
one or
Yes.
two.
Yes. So where I currently work, when I just joined, we were
Mm-hmm.
to redesign the website for one of their products. Oh my God. Sorry. Oh my God. Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh
The
God.
initial design. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say that. The initial design
Okay.
wasn't great. It wasn't. It
Okay.
wasn't the best. It wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like a team of designers. So it was the first one. I don't know what was going on. Our team lead was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the team lead, that thing where you like you have like a pack of dogs, very hungry dogs. You put them in like a cage, and then you just throw like meat inside. Then they
Ah,
have to like fight for
wahala,
scrap.
wahala, wahala.
That was basically what happened between all of us, because we had like
Wow.
different products we were working on. So she just opened the group. I was like, you know what? I'm going to add all of you here. Um, decide on how the website should look and how the entire experience should come across. And boom, she was gone. It
Just
was
left you guys. Imagine.
it was amazing. it
Oh my God.
it was like watching Gladiator. So we'll
Wow.
fight over button, we'll fight over the craziest things, we'll fight over
Gosh.
fonts, what font to use. It
Wow.
was so silly. And then the entire experience as well, we fought over that. At the end of the day, everybody had to make compromises. Every single person.
Mm-hmm.
But it also felt it didn't feel like we were just making compromises, for the sake of the product. It felt like we were making compromises so that we just want something that we worked on, we put in our blood and sweat will be in it. But it did turn out
Okay.
well at the end of the day, Sha.
Okay.
So we were
Hmm.
able to do that around. So that was one very interesting experience. That taught me a lot, a lot. You've already taught me that coming into design, but it taught me even
Mm-hmm.
more about work, how to actually like sell your design to your peers.
Mm.
People actually
Right.
understand design just like you, how
Mm-hmm.
to sell it to them as
Mm-hmm.
well. So that was
Yeah.
that was that was tough. It was fun. It was tough as well. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I think that's something that's actually not really spoken about. How like it's so apart from like your external stakeholders, maybe the product manager or the business team, right? Like actually like justifying your design decisions to your peers is something
yeah,
else too. Like
it's
it's
so
something that's not
hard.
really talked about.
It's so
Yeah,
hard. And I know we
I
all
love
we all
that.
do this thing on Twitter where we are like, oh, designers just design for designers. Yes, it's a bit
Mm.
true, but at the same time, they just once if you're doing it for designers, a designer doing it for designers, there's very heavy focus on visuals. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not really selling everything else. It's just what they can see, and then they
Mm-hmm.
would say, "Oh, this is amazing, amazing." But then, where's the story to it? Where's the depth? And that's
Yeah.
where everything will just spoil. So yeah, but that was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. I won't
Yeah.
advise anybody to do that to their team of designers.
Oh God.
Please don't do that.
Right.
Wasn't
Right. So
great, but
please,
yeah,
if you're
it,
hearing or you're managing a team of designers, please
please don't do
don't do that, right? Please give
that.
some more direction, to the
Yeah,
instructions
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I think you've mentioned, yeah, so you've already talked about, collaborating on a project, right? Like you just
Right.
mentioned. Are there like have you learned any other thing that's interesting or insightful about collaborating apart from with like designers, for instance, maybe with business
Yeah.
teams,
Right.
researchers? Have you had any stories like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Another one?
yeah. Yeah. So, um, I don't know. I don't know how to put this. I don't think you have to know how to like honestly, honestly, honestly. You really have to. Sometimes the lie is for your own
Gosh.
good. Sometimes it's
Okay.
for the good of whatever it is you're working on. But you have to
Mm-hmm.
know how to lie, honest, because a lot of people will. They will squeeze you and in not the right way, not to get the best work out of
Mm-hmm.
you. They'll just do it because they have zero understanding of what it is that you do. And
Mm.
sometimes it can be quite difficult. I know a lot of people out there would say, oh, you're supposed to buy in whoever it is you're working with, your stakeholders,
Mm.
see
Mhm.
whatever it is you're doing to them. That's great. It sounds amazing on Instagram. But like
Mm.
not a lot
Right?
of us have that. Yeah, not a lot of us can do that. And sometimes
Mhm.
that comes with a lot of experience. You've seen the worst of
Mhm.
the worst. So you know how to deal with them, right?
Mhm.
But you sometimes I had a client one time who wanted me to make a design and he would demand that I show up to some hastily arranged meeting every single time he wakes
In
up and
person?
yeah, in person every
God, I
single
beg.
time he wakes up and yeah. every single time like the moment Ginger just enter, you just say, "You will come and meet me here and here." And each and every time, my grandma would have something important for me to come and do.
Mm. They're trying
So
to balance that.
yeah, so it was really hard doing all of those. And at the end of the
Mm.
day, I was lucky enough to kind of have like a manager who brought me in, a product manager who brought me onto the project. So I
Mm.
had that person to hide behind, right?
Ah,
And yeah, I had that person to
very
hide behind.
important.
Very important. So I think at that point in time, given my experience, I don't think I would have been able to. I think we would have fought, to be honest. So I don't think I would have been able to manage these clients in the way that they would have. So yeah,
Mm.
that distance between us gave me that leverage to be able to, like, really push things the way that I felt
Mm.
should have gone. So
Mm.
yeah, and that's, you have to be able to lie. Also, there's a lot has to be said about tax, but I'm not sure that's something that you can be taught. I think it's something that you have
Hmm.
to learn from like
You just
experience,
learn, right?
learn
And you will
it.
make a lot of mistakes while learning.
You will,
Yeah.
you will. Yes, and one thing, I don't, okay, but this, okay, your question was, with like stakeholders and stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Or
I
clients, any
clients,
other person that you've worked
yeah,
with.
yeah. So mostly that's it, really.
Okay. So I think I really like how honest you've been, right? So
Right.
yes, I think stakeholder
I hope I'm
management,
not
that's
too honest.
something. No, 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 no. Like someone has to say it. And I think it's like this is literally the best person to say it.
Right.
Stakeholder management, nobody teaches you when you are learning design or anything like this, that
No,
stakeholder management is one of the things that you will struggle with, right?
you
So
will.
learning how to be tactful, learning how
Yeah.
to like leverage, so maybe someone else on your team, like you said, your product manager, right?
Right.
Leveraging your relationship with that person to be able to manage the clients better. Like you just have to do what you have to do, and I really really
Yeah,
like the
you
fact that
will.
you've been very honest about this. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay. So, okay, one more question. The field of product design is constantly evolving. So now the next thing, AI, all of us are scared. Will AI take our jobs? Right? But how do
Right.
you stay updated with the latest trends? You know, how do you make sure that you're like up to date with the latest tools and technologies that are out there?
Right. Right. So this is I think it's a very tricky topic for me personally. Um,
Okay.
yeah, because recently I had this worry that I was kind of losing touch.
Hmm.
Like looking at my designs, I was like, I think my designs are a bit old. With the feel and everything. It's not new. It's not now. It doesn't feel modern.
Hmm.
It feels like I'm like 2 steps behind. So it
Hmm.
was something I was really looking at, like really looking to work on, and like going back to the basics, and like working and just recreating designs and like trying to make new stuff, which I will be sharing on Twitter in like in the coming week. So it's
Please
been,
share, 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 share.
yes, that's also something I never really did consistently. I don't even think I even really did it that well when I started
Hmm.
out. It's something, if anyone's listening to this, if you're just starting out with design, even if you're not just starting out, just share your work really. It
Mm-hmm.
there's really nothing to lose from it.
Yeah.
Except
There's no
like,
shame. Every designer has been in that beginner stage. So they
yup,
understand,
yeah.
right?
And it's even amazing for me, for someone who's as shameless as I am in real life. Like, what happened? Where is the shame from? Where is it coming from? But yeah, to your
Oh
to your
gosh.
question. So like, how do I keep it? So I've been recently stacking up. I read a lot of books, right?
Okay.
And then there's Twitter. To be honest, a lot of my
Yes. I know you're very active on Twitter.
yeah, a lot of the things that keep me in touch is on Twitter. It comes from Twitter, because yeah, mostly Twitter. Twitter, Twitter,
Mm.
Twitter. Oh yeah, smashing as
Yes.
well. I I geek out on smashing.
Smashing.
So really, yeah,
Okay.
smashing magazine. So that's mostly
Okay.
that's it. And yeah, I try to design as well. I've not been doing that a lot lately, but
Okay.
that's also something that's in the works. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard because it's just
Mm,
easy for it to just get lost. But it's you have to consistently like brush up. You mentioned
I
AI.
love that.
This was before ChatGPT came out, right? And like everybody was
Okay.
like, was so the book it kind of feels timely looking back at it now. The New Breed, yeah,
The new
The New
breed.
Breed,
Okay.
yeah, The New Breed by Kate Darling. So
Oh,
she's like
nice.
this, she's academia sha in AI,
Okay.
and her defense, everything the book is based on is that you're not supposed to see AI as your replacement. That was the analogy basically. Think of AI as
Okay.
pets.
Okay.
So
I think
yeah,
I'm on
so
board with
just
that. I actually
yeah,
agree.
yeah, try and just humanize them. And
Mm-hmm.
that thing we do to animals, where you see an animal, you're like, oh my god, it's so cute. Oh, it's nodding its head at me. That's a human gesture,
Mm-hmm.
but you've given
Mm-hmm.
it to that animal, so that you can relate with it a lot more. So do
Mm-hmm.
that to machines, and people already do that anyways in places like Japan and everything. So why
Mm.
is the Western world so strongly opposed to this?
Right. Why are we all acting like none of us are going to
Right,
work ever again? Yeah, it's like
right, and
I
like
really that I think that fear is far fetched, to be honest.
it was an eye opener for me because, and so
Mm.
that's why when I see 5 things to tell you about AI and how it's going to take your job, I just roll my eyes elegantly. I
Too
roll
many
my eyes.
Twitter threads about
Oh
that.
my god! And then I just keep scrolling.
So I just wanted to
So
ask a couple more questions, right? So
uh,
about design and research. So I know, of course, you've already said you're just 2 years into design, but like, can you
uh,
talk about how maybe a project you worked on where research came helped you make some design decisions and how that happened?
yeah, yeah. So a case study I recently worked on, which was
Okay,
with Unkowa Oku. So they're an Igbo learning platform. All of you should get on
okay,
it. We currently have. I volunteer my time for Unkowa. It's open source. So we currently have the Mota app out. It's available on Google Play Store. You guys should check that out. Sorry, you people
okay.
should check that out. So, so one thing, one big is okay. So one major thing we like to do at Okooko is to always make sure that everything we do is kind of backed up with some form of information, right?
Okay.
So with the Chrome extension, for instance, sorry, the Okooko Chrome extension, with that, research was basically it for me. That was what
Mm,
everything was backed on. So like a lot of people were complaining that, oh, we didn't like this particular thing that this extension does, and we think it's very irritating.
mm,
And I had to like piggyback, speak to people who use it. I had to like get them on calls, which was increasingly hard. No, not interestingly, because I
okay.
didn't know UX researchers had to like go through that much stress
But I'm
to
going
get
through a
people.
lot.
Oh my god, to get people to get on calls, you had to
Mm-hmm.
check in, you had to ah, and then when you're on the call, it might not really give what it is you kind of need it to give, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of information you kind of need. It might just
Mm-hmm.
be face level and it's not good enough.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
can't get
You want
anything from
that
it.
deep insight, and maybe the person is just
Exactly.
not opening
And
up.
it's yeah. And there were even times where the person isn't even that familiar with the product, with the
Okay.
extension. In that uh, point blank, that was it. They were not familiar with the
Mm.
extension. Just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do the interview, maybe
Right.
because an interview. Let's see how this goes. It might be fun,
Mm.
or I'm not
Were
doing
you
anything
offering
right
any
now.
incentives?
Right? We were not even offering incentives, which was
Okay.
curious. But it's open source, so you have a lot of people who like always volunteer for stuff, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so there was that. So yeah, but at the end of the day, really, I was able to like comb through a lot of responses that I got,
Okay.
and then I was saddled with documentation. UX researchers, people are trying,
Yes. Documentation is like 60% of our
I hate
work.
it. I detest it with every fiber of my being.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I have some stuff I need to document that I have not gotten on in like weeks, and it just keeps piling up. So yeah, I
That's the
really
thing, until you address it,
um
it will be there,
it's really
piling up.
there. No one will do it for you. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it so yes, for the Nukowo Chrome extension, you guys should read. You people should read my case study to know.
Oh, yes.
But
Can you
yeah,
send the link to me? I'll add it to the show notes for sure.
okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. So yeah, so the thing that was annoying people to the heavens was the each time you would copy and like highlight a word on your browser, the extension would
Okay.
just pop up and just block your view. Like, oh,
Imagine.
oh, look at me, I'm here, use me, use me. It was so desperate. We were
Mm-hmm.
like, we want people to use this thing, so download it and use
Mm-hmm.
it. And then people at the end of the day, people were like, yeah, we will use it when we want to, not
Mm-hmm.
all the time. But it's been really
Wow.
fun. I
Mm-hmm.
won't say that. I think research is one thing I enjoy a lot about
Mm-hmm.
design.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it getting to speak to people. Sometimes it's the surveys, sometimes it's the whole speaking to people. I don't like the documentation part, but everything else is really fun.
Yeah, it is actually fun. Yes, I find it so interesting. So
it is
from everything you've said now, right? So you talked about how you actually had to talk to the people, and then you realized that, oh, you were talking to certain people, but they weren't just giving you what you needed, right? So
right.
I would say probably this is not to say that you didn't do a good job. I think you did a fantastic
Yeah,
job with what you had available to you. But for
right,
instance, if you had a researcher, maybe like an experienced researcher on your team, they would have probably
right.
done some screening to make sure that the people you're actually talking to are like they
Hmm.
use the products, they are very familiar with it,
Right.
So those things you won't then end up calling somebody that doesn't have, maybe doesn't even recall using the extension, right? Because you want to talk to somebody who
Exactly.
has used it very well, is very familiar with it. And like you said, you weren't really always getting what you wanted because, they might not even remember everything. But luckily, right, you spoke to someone who actually saw, you know, told you about the major issue that they were having. So that's
Right.
great. I love that. I love that. I really love that. Thank you for sharing that. So I have one last question for you. So
Okay.
how does your role as a designer, how does it contribute to the overall success of a product from your own point of view, in your own experience, right?
Right.
What's the value that you bring to a product, a project, a team?
Right. Right. So I'm going to use the Oracle Chrome extension that because it's one that's really top of mind that
Okay.
I recently worked on. People hated they hated the the pop up. Right. It was
Okay.
annoying. After 5 seconds installing the extension and you try to browse and it pops up, they will delete it.
Wow. So it
So
was really a really big problem.
it was so getting to the point where we could pinpoint the problem, we could work on it, and we didn't get that much emotion per se,
Hmm.
that much hate, right,
Hmm.
from people using it, and then they were like, okay, this is better. I think that is like a very top tier
Hmm.
example of how you know I impact products or teams or anything.
Yeah, I love that actually. I think it's very simple, very clear. So having a designer on your team helps you solve problems basically, and helps your product actually solve the problems that your users want without, the friction basically. So you make it a frictionless, seamless process for your product to do what it's meant to do for your customers. I love that. Thank you.
I,
Thank
I
you.
I do want to say this though. So getting on this podcast, when you sent me the message, I was like, I'm not exactly sure I'm the designer you would be looking for.
You think so?
And then I was like, but like that's something I've been trying to lean into a lot more as well. And I know I've been saying this a lot throughout the podcast. A lot of I want to lean more into this, I want to lean more into that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just being able to sort of tell my story in a way that feels like me.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
that
you've done
way,
that.
yeah, that way I don't kind of lose touch with what it is that I'm trying to do or trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
over the 2 years in design, there's been a lot of silence. There's been a lot of what exactly is it? What exactly am I reaching out towards as a designer?
Mm.
Where am I heading? So it's
So I'd love
important.
for you to do something. Leave a message for yourself. So imagine this is 2 years from now, and
Right.
what would you like to tell your future self 2 years from now? What do you see yourself doing?
Yeah, so like my future self from now would definitely have like a full-time product design role in a
Mm-hmm.
well-respected B2B SaaS company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think one thing I would tell myself is progress, really.
Mm-hmm.
And your journey isn't exactly the same as everyone else's. Early this, not even early this, yeah, sometime early this year, I was just doing that thing we all do, stalking some of my peers on LinkedIn, and I was like,
I
oh my god,
know. LinkedIn
this
used
is
to
the
take
face.
out that somebody viewed
Oh,
your profile.
this person is on Facebook now. This person is, I was like, oh wow, these people are doing
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
like they put in a lot of work to get there. You don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
don't see that. Nothing, it didn't just fall into their lap. It doesn't really matter if they are connected, it doesn't matter if they are wealthy, blah blah blah. All of that is, by the way, they put
Yeah,
in a
they
lot.
still worked hard. Yeah.
They work very hard. And at the end of the day, you have to do the same. You have to work hard, you have
Mm-hmm.
to work smart, you have to network like crazy. Networking is so
Mm-hmm.
important. I did not know how
Mm-hmm.
important it was till I started, having to put myself out there. Maybe not so much on
Yeah.
social media, but like at events. I
Okay.
recently was at this whole Nkawako thing, sort of like
Okay.
this Tech Point Startup Expo, right?
Okay.
So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I went there with Nkawako, and a lot of people had heard of Nkawako, and
Okay.
I did not know that. We did not know we were that popular. So many people would come around to the booth and
Wow.
be like, "We're literally stars of the show." I know this is my
Imagine.
report of what happened. I know it might not be
Mm.
accurate, but I don't care. We were stars of the show, and that's so yeah, really, really. So honestly, just just ignore the noise, put your head down,
Mhm.
and just have fun.
That is so profound. Dipo, are you sure you're at the age that you say? Are you sure you have not lived like another lifetime before this?
I
Are you
read a
those
lot
people
of
that
books.
this is like
That's
your
what it
third
is.
lifetime?
So
Sorry?
like I said, I read a lot of books. That was always my response. Like I read a lot. I
Hmm.
read
So I'm not
a
the
lot.
first person telling you that Dipo, you sound older than you are.
No, no, you're not. This,
I love that. So in 2 years, we're going to see Dipo in everything he said. We're going to see Dipo in a B2B SaaS company of his dreams, making impact and doing good work, right? I can't wait
yeah,
to see you in 2 years. Maybe you come
yeah.
back on this podcast in 2 years. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know it probably wasn't like easy for you, right? But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Allah, for having me. I had fun. I did have fun. Um,
Yay, I'm glad. So thank you so much again, Dipo, for sharing so much about yourself and your role. It's been a really fun and relatable episode, if I may say so myself. So if you're looking for a promising B2B SaaS product designer, you are in great hands with Dipo. I'll have his LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So yes, that brings us to the end of this really eye-opening conversation with Dipo. He has shared, his personal experiences with us, and I really hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the struggles and triumphs that come with shaping digital products. Now remember that the world of product design is constantly evolving, and it's through the stories and experiences of people like Dipo that we continue to push the boundaries of innovation. So stay tuned for more engaging discussions and inspiring stories. And thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep designing and dreaming big. Have a good one. Bye.